From chemotherapy to immunotherapy, the evolution of drugs in cancer care. Why are cancer drugs so expensive?
It's it's like a movie. We go from pre-production to shoot to post-production to release.
So, at a policy level, if you had the power, what change would you make?
Body evolves, cancer evolves. Pharma has implemented a very good system on in the same lines. So similarly, there are QR codes which are there on the out carton which matches with the vials, and each vial is numbered, serial numbered.
But how does a patient find that?
QR code.
QR code. Welcome to OncoFlix podcast. From chemotherapy to immunotherapy, the evolution of drugs in cancer care. To talk about this topic, we have with us Dr. Priyank Tripathi, Head of Pharmacology at HCG Hospitals, Bangalore. Welcome to our show, Dr. Priyank.
Thank you.
Welcome, Priyank.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Why are cancer drugs so expensive?
It's like a movie. We go from pre-production to shoot to post-production to release. Right. What happens here, when compared to other therapeutic areas, where we have a larger population, to do the trials. We have, a lot of molecules, a lot of subdomains which are currently available, to further research. Oncology or cancer, as we all understand, the disease itself is complex. Traditional chemotherapies, we all, come across resistances. Body evolves, cancer evolves. So is the need for treatment to evolve. And when treatment needs to evolve, we have to find new ways to, counter this resistance against our own self, right? And human body is smart. We have very smart mechanisms to, to counter anything which is set against it. So what happens in this race, I would say, we have to look at new targets, new markers, new ways of counteracting these resistances. That makes the entire oncology research a very expensive aspect, because you're looking at x number of factors to be considered at one time when you are targeting one specific type of cancer.
Right.
So when you have to do that, you have to think of 100 pathways or 100 reasons, 100 ways that the disease may evolve itself. Right. So target one aspect at a time, target one reason at a time which is causing cancer, makes it even further complex to search. And when you have to search more, you have to infuse more money. When you have to infuse more money, it makes it expensive.
Right. So let's take the example of cisplatin. The most commonly used drug in oncology costs few hundreds, compared to immunotherapy, the recent evolution costing few lakhs. So who determines the price, and what factors exactly goes into determining the price of a drug?
See, the main factor is the amount of money that we are spending in coming out with
The discovery itself.
Discovery itself is a costly affair, right? Each discovery may cost several millions of dollars. If when we speak about global expense, uh, coming to and that adds to a lot of cost. Coming to who decides the cost, every country has their mechanism to decide cost. Of course, manufacturers have a good say. The inventor has a good say in that. But in order to make a therapy accessible to public, if I take example of India, so what Indian regulatory, so we have a few regulatory authorities within the drug control departments, the CDSU and the DCGI which are governed by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, where they look at the possible share of disease or prevalence of that disease in the country, looking at the 1% share of that particular therapeutic domain or the company, and then looking at a certain percentage margin that it should not be less than that much margin for the retailer to continue the business, which is set in and around 16%.
Mhm.
So that 16% and leverage to the manufacturer till they achieve 1% of the market share, it is left to the manufacturer to decide it till that point of time. After that, the NPPA, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, through drug price control order, takes over and directs the manufacturers to come to a specific cost. I mean, that is the reason we see the innovative therapies being costly, while the generic or the bioequivalence molecule are relatively less costly.
Mhm. So, how does cancer drugs differ from a country to country? Like, for example, USA has a certain cost, India has a certain cost, or probably Europe has a different cost. Which is the best country or having the best quality drug with least amount of cost?
Very subjective. But when it comes to quality, uh, uh, my understanding, my opinion, is quality remains same.
Mhm.
When we speak about, say, if I talk about an innovative molecule, a molecule which is developed by a manufacturer X, for example, say in the United States, since we are mentioning about it, uh, the cost may be X dollars. Now, if this drug has to come to India, for example, if we talk about Indian geography, there are certain amount of taxes that the pharmaceutical company has to pay as part of the trade, trade practices. There are custom requirements, and then when they come to the country, there are certain taxes. Those are levied on, levied as part of the trade practice again, as per the law of land. Now, if a drug costs X dollars in the US, when it comes to India, there it is X amount of tax, say a 12% or a 18% tax that is levied on that cost,
Mhm.
plus the cost of transporting the drug. So, suppose if this drug requires controlled temperature, the cost of transporting the drug in the controlled temperature environment from that region to India, which might take few days. Usually, typically, it takes about uh, 5 to 7 days to transport drugs like that. So these all contribute to cost. So the cost in USA, which probably is about, say, $1,000 for a drug, if it is to be imported. Now there are two different things which we are looking at. If it's to be imported, over and above this $1,000, we are looking at custom duties, we are looking at other taxes, which adds on to, say, another roughly about 30-35%, and sometimes even more,
Mhm.
in terms of dollar exchange value. So when we convert it to INR, of course, the cost goes a little high. Scenario two, when the drug is approved in India for marketing. Now, when this happens, still the cost relatively is higher when we look from Indian rupee conversion perspective, but may not be as high as when we are importing the drug, because now we are not trading in the dollar values, or we're not trading in international currency. We are trading in Indian currency.
Mhm.
So now with this situation, the drug cost relatively may be about 30%, 40% less than the cost when we are importing it from an approved geography.
Interesting.
So, if we talk of a policy from a government level, and if you are at a position where you can actually suggest a policy change, what kind of policy change would you suggest to control the costing of new drugs? Specifically, let's take the example of immunotherapy in head and neck cancer. Now, we have our own example where we have seen dramatic results, but many patients were not able to take it because of the cost. We have found an innovative
Okay.
solution. We are using lower doses, but there are many more people which could benefit if the costing is lower. When you see such benefit, would you not call it as an essential drug itself for cancer? And if it is an essential drug, as per norm, it should come at a very low price.
Absolutely.
So, at a policy level, if you had the power, what change would you make?
Before that, for a minute, I would, since we've mentioned about essential drugs, now in India, there is a mechanism to automatically bring down cost of drugs. Mentioned about essential. So if the drug falls in the category of essential drug list of the country, it automatically gets into the domain of National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authorities control. So NPPA's drug price control order take into effect, and the calculations whatever are approved therein falls valid for this particular molecule, and the cost significantly comes down. Uh, the question arises when we have a new molecule. Uh, these costs are not curbed to give an advantage to the innovator. One reason is to give that advantage to the innovator, that they have spent 12 to
Millions of
15 years, 12 to 15 years of time, millions of dollars to bring this molecule up. So and plus very important aspect is to give that intellectual property benefit to them, that IP benefit to them, that innovation benefit to them. uh, the cost are usually not fiddled around at this point of time. But if we have to do something, uh, I think the policymaker, if I am the policymaker, I would try to allocate certain fundings in the public space. So we have a lot of public insurance schemes available today, central government, state government schemes. I believe strengthening those schemes and allocating funds for newer therapies in those schemes, and
exactly.
practicing universal healthcare, in my opinion, and making sure that our larger population, good number of population is covered under the insurance. That can help in taking cost or bringing cost at a reasonable point, right? At the same time, it becomes accessible, which is very important. I mean, you rightly mentioned. See, even if we try giving lower dosages of drugs like immunotherapies, that might still cost about 40,000 rupees for every 2 weeks, which is close to about roughly about 80,000 rupees a month. Not everybody can afford 80,000 rupees a month, which is the lowest dose, right? So not everybody can afford 60, 80,000 rupees a month. So if we are able to include this cost as part of the insurance that we provide to the public, I think that can help a lot in improving our overall health infrastructure, overall well-being of the society, and the people who are in need, are in real need of real need of these drugs.
So, talking about spurious drugs or fake drugs, how big of this is a problem in the subcontinent or countries like Africa? I'm sure it is not that of a big problem in Europe and USA because it's highly regulated. How big of a problem is that in specifically Indian scenario?
Uh, Fairly big. Uh, so
Is it mainly in the urban cities like
no, it's
the
spread across.
metropolis cities like Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, or is
Spread
it
across.
rampant everywhere?
Rampant everywhere. If you ask me, last week, in fact, I think there was a bust in Delhi,
Mm-hmm.
where the authorities, they took a suo moto cognizance of of spurious drug racket, and drugs worth, to if I'm not remembering wrong, about 5.5 crore worth drugs, spurious drugs, were found. In terms of statistics, there are published reports from various institutions, organizations available in public domain, uh, which quote that this particular part of drug distribution has increased by over 20% in
Wow.
past decade.
Past decade. Yeah.
And we are talking about a global drug market of close to $1 trillion. Close to $1 trillion, not trillion yet, but close to $1 trillion. So 20% of $1 trillion is big. There are speculations, however, the government data says that it's about 2% to 3% of share that Indian, the spread of spurious drugs in Indian market is about 2 to 3%, which other international bodies speculate to about 30%
Wow.
in less regulated geographies. Uh, there are mention of Africa, there are mention of India in those reports. But as per certain reports which are endorsed by the government authorities, we speak about 1 to 2% in Indian.
Is it of the same magnitude in Europe and US?
About 1% is what they say. CDC says about 1%.
1%.
In US, Europe, another regulated, highly, more, strictly regulated geographies.
Right. Right. So we recently heard about these drugs being replaced with water in vials.
Oh, that was.
And we've also heard that some expensive drugs, when patients go and they order online, they get it at 1/10 the cost, and it ended up being spurious drugs. So, how exactly does these spurious drugs enter the circulation?
Uh, so what I'm quoting now is uh, from the news reports that we read. Uh, the worst of recent times. Last year, I think, around year and a half back in NCR, there was a burst where immunotherapy vials were found, filled with antifungals, paracetamols, which are like what each vial, say 20 milliliter vial, may cost about 10 rupees, 15 rupees when you fill it, and somebody's selling it for lakh and a half, couple of lakhs, things like that. So what these guys did, as per the news reports, what these guys did, they they somehow managed to get empty vials out of the hospital ecosystem, empty cartons out of the hospital ecosystem, filled those empty cartons and vials of the original drug product with
Okay.
the spurious drugs, and sold it to the patients whom they found, or people whom they found, were less aware of things like this. Now, you've rightly mentioned about people searching online. It's very important. I mean, through this, I think it's a very important message that all of us and people who are listening to us should imbibe. Uh, Everything online is not the way it looks.
Correct.
Right? Searching in Facebook, getting into some unknown WhatsApp groups, getting drugs from unauthorized or non-confirmed sources. I personally feel people should avoid. Right? Somebody offering you a drug for 1/10 or 1/4 or 1/3 of a cost will not offer you
Genuine ones.
genuine.
The high possibility that it's
Yes,
not genuine.
high possibility that it is not genuine. Right? High possibility that it is also, if at all it is a genuine drug, not being stored properly. Yeah, somewhere people have to cut cost, right? And this is where they cut cost. They might not invest in properly temperature controlled facility, right? They get it from somewhere, keep it with them, found somebody, 2.5 lakh, 2 lakh rupees medicine. They say, I'll give you for 80,000, 90,000. People take it.
So I think this is why it's very important that somebody buys it from a pharmacy that knows where its drug is coming from. Because
Absolutely.
the fact that you told that they get the vials back from hospitals and
Absolutely.
refill it, if you don't know where your drug is coming from, you can always be fooled because you have a label, you have an expiry date,
Yes.
you have a batch number.
Yes. So I mean, there are a lot of steps that government has taken, a lot of steps that pharma has taken to to counteract against such practices. So there is a schedule called Schedule H2, in the Drug Rules and Drugs and Cosmetics Act, where there is an inclusion of about 300 brands. Now all these 300 brands are supposed to paste or have QR codes on the outer carton of the drug vial, which should match with the vial which is inside the carton. So now what happens if I am a spurious drug maker? I have to be double sure that whatever is inside, whichever vial is inside, I have the carton of the same QR code.
Right.
Otherwise,
Yeah, so
it's a
that
spurious
makes
drug.
sense. So it's
That-
not
yeah.
enough if just the vial has.
Yes,
The carton that has the vial
it has to match.
has to match. So
Yes.
if I'm getting the vial from somewhere else, the carton wouldn't match.
Exactly.
Right, that's
Exactly.
interesting.
That's a very good mechanism, and it is just been implemented for insulin preparations, implemented for drugs for use other than oncology. But I'm sure with the way things are being misused, very soon we might see some of the oncology drugs or high cost drugs being part of it. Pharma has implemented a very good system on in the same lines. So similarly, there are QR codes which are there on the outer carton, which matches with the vials,
Mhm.
and each vial is numbered, serial numbered.
But how does a patient find that?
QR code,
QR code.
Right.
match the QR code. Look at the QR code. Best thing is, uh, buy from the
Genuine store.
genuine sources. Buy from trusted sources. Trust your hospital. Trust your pharmacy. Right. Make sure that the drugs are bought from authorized sellers.
Right.
All the you know uh, big pharmas, in fact any pharma for that sake, today has a good distribution system which is traceable. Right. If we approach the right person, they direct us to the company authorized sellers, the company authorized supply chain system, which definitely does not allow any spurious, counter branded, or counterfeit medicine to come into the circulation. Right. The point is, do not fall prey to online fraud and fraudulent messages of getting the supplies of drugs at one third, one fourth of the cost. Right.
So there is no Burma Bazaar
Burma
to
Bazaar.
oncology drugs.
Definitely not. Definitely not. There is no Burma Bazaar to oncology drugs. Even there is one, uh, may not be genuine.
Totally. So talking about, definitely with respect to spurious drugs or counterfeit drugs, the outcomes when we give these kinds
Yeah.
of drugs to patients, probably the outcomes are not going to be as expected.
Absolutely.
But do you think there is also a risk of death to patients?
Yes.
Has there been any reported incident which you know of?
Um, I I don't recollect any because, to be very frank, these are hardly reported in open media, right? So we do not come across. But uh, I mean, being healthcare professionals contributing in oncology, looking after patients of cancer, I mean, we understand, how important it is to have access to right drug,
Exactly.
to get the right treatment, right? Uh, uh, we might be under impression that we have given the immunotherapy, the patient should respond to it, which they usually do, but we are left to surprise that nothing is happening. It's not working. All the scans, all the tests comes negative. I mean, you see the cancer growing, you see the disease growing, and at the end of the day, the patient may succumb to the disease. I mean, they have been so the burst I was talking about, the rates and the things that drug control department has surfaced. There are about 2 to 3 thousand patients who are speculated to have received those drugs. Right. If you go back to look at the responses, look at what happened to those patients, I'm sure some of them probably would have succumbed to the disease because the drug never acted, because it was never there.
Interesting.
So with respect to drug discovery in cancer, we know that cancer treatment itself is an ever evolving field. How do you see the last decade?
Amazing. I mean, so what we have seen in last decade, I feel it's the evolution of immunotherapy.
Right.
We were reading about it. We were understanding a bit of it. That immune system plays a very important role in regulating cell growth, in regulating body's defense against cancer. Uh, but last decade, I think, has revolutionized the way we are able to fiddle around with the uncontrolled immune system.
Correct.
Right. We had plethora of immunotherapies, which has come into practice for all good. We are looking at exceptionally good responses. We are looking at responses where traditionally we were not expecting patients to respond very well, but with immunotherapy, with targeted therapy. So that's another domain, another area that has evolved tremendously in last 1 decade. Today we have treatments available for specific targets which are responsible for growth of certain cancers. So lung cancers, EGFR, for example, if I was to give EGFR targets, how many targets did we had 10 years back?
Right.
Correct.
Uh, Similar type of cancers, somebody's cancer reaching brain, how many drugs we had in hand, targeted drugs we had in hand to which can reach brain. We all understand it's very difficult for the drug to penetrate brain when compared to the body. So last decade, I think we have seen evolution of immunotherapy, our better understanding of immune system, our better understanding of drug resistance mechanism, uh, the advent of CAR T cell therapy, the current development of BCMA CAR Ts, and further safer cell-based therapies, cell-targeted therapies, is, I believe, something which is taking oncology forward
in a
in a
very
big, big way.
organic way.
Yes, in a very organic way. And I believe the day is not far when we will be able to manage cancer the way we manage diabetes or hypertension.
I think with respect to drug discovery, especially, I think artificial intelligence is going to make a huge impact.
It is. It still make,
Especially right now, if you see with respect to immunotherapy, we are just treating based on two biomarkers or three biomarkers, PD-L1, CTLA4, and probably tumor mutational burden or MSI. I'm sure with respect to artificial intelligence, with such high amount of efficiency, there's going to be more amount of biomarkers which are going to be identified with respect to quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and probably that could lead to more amount of discovery as well. So do you think with your experience, how is artificial intelligence going to be used to leverage precision medicine and newer drug discovery?
it has already started. So currently there are in silico models, there are in silico softwares uh, which are uh, um, uh, which are linked to big data.
Mhm.
There are neural networks which have started putting in their verified, purified, and uh, purified data, right? Which is helping us in bringing down the search for the right molecule. Now, what when I say in silico softwares, so what used to happen traditionally? We synthesize a molecule, test it. Say, for example, if you're looking for cancer, you either test it on cell lines, you test it on organoid models, you test on animals, and then proceed further if this molecule is efficacious or less toxic. Now it takes years and years to
Correct.
to bring one molecule out of, say, 1,000 or 10,000 uh, possible targets, right, or possible molecules. What has happened because of artificial intelligence integration is this search from 4 5 years has come down to few hours or few days,
It is.
right? So one possible target, based on whatever data we have today, and there we have robust data today, and this data, there's a lot of information which is getting added up every single day,
Mhm.
right? The technology is evolving, so is the data, and this has led to reduction of time that is taken for drug discovery significantly. And currently we are looking at having a new drug in the market within a span of 5 to 7 years from what used to be 12 to 15 years. So that's where I think that's one very important area where artificial intelligence is helping. Another area where a lot of research and lot of work is going on is to find new biomarkers and new targets. Like with the way basic science has evolved, with the way our understanding of cancer has
Cancer.
evolved,
Yeah.
we today know a lot of mechanisms through which the disease or the cancer
Change resistance.
yeah, becomes resistant. Right? It's about finding the right molecule to target it. And then starts your journey of testing it in the animal models, then coming to the human trials, etc., etc., etc. But that amount of time, those 3 4 5 6 7 or probably 10 years that probably we would have spent on searching this molecule for this particular target, we have cut that time down. So that's where I think it's
I
helping.
think with respect to the evolution of bioinformatics as well, we have moved from genomics to proteomics, and now we are going into metabolomics. So obviously, there's going to be multiple biomarkers, and there's going to be exciting, newer drug discoveries which can target cancer at the minute level, and that could probably get the best outcomes and probable excellent cure rates as well. We can probably say cure is possible in cancer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I resonate with your thoughts. Uh, I think the way, as I said, the way technology has evolved. We understand the proteins better than any time before today, right? And at the end of the day, whatever happens inside the body, it's that protein which translates as a good protein or a bad protein.
Correct.
Either it is a disease or it is not a disease. Is that one final protein, which expresses itself?
Right.
Right. When we understand that, we probably can target that.
So, what is your viewpoint on this? See, when we talk of clinical trials, proving it, knowing what side effects it can cause, how safe it is, and then bringing it to the forefront is the right way because you know on a long term what is going to happen. This is okay if we are talking of some early cancer where you know that the expected survival at 5 years is very high. Talking about metastatic cancers, right, where you know the 1 year survival itself could be less than 50%, right? Do you agree with the current concept of phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and then establishing it as a standard for a metastatic case where you're worried about what will happen at 5 years if you give the drug, but the patient may collapse if you don't give any drug at the end of 1 year itself?
No, I agree with you. See, that is the reason that we see a lot of therapies being granted accelerated approvals, fast track approvals. That is where it happens, right?
So, what is the quickest approval a drug has ever got from the time of discovery?
It's about at this point of time, a drug which was approved in about 7 years. I'm not able to recollect the name, but about 7 years that it took for the drug to come from the lab to the market. So
Right.
roughly about 7 years. I'm talking about full, full
Post-market surveillance as well.
yeah. I'm talking about full approval. I'm not talking about an accelerated approval. So coming to your point, whether it, how logical it is to or not logical it is to allow using a drug in a patient who has say extensive metastasis, but the drug appears very promising for the patient. Uh, my personal view, we must.
Because you think of COVID,
Yes.
right? The vaccines came out not with 5 years of trial.
Correct.
And if it had, we would have lost much more lives.
Yeah.
Correct.
There may be some complications which we didn't see at that point. Maybe we will see in the future.
Absolutely.
But it did save a lot of lives.
Absolutely.
Applying the same concept, should we not look at even more accelerated approval, which is less than few years, specifically in scenarios where you know it has a life-threatening event?
Yeah, so see, there are two things to it. One, cutting down the time. Now, cutting down the time when we use newer technology. So when we implement or we impressed AI into our drug search or molecule search or say for example target search. Right. So when we are using artificial intelligence, we are cutting down the time significantly, probably by half today. But we have to give that time with that a drug takes to understand its, if I have to talk technical, to understand its bioavailability, to understand its pharmacokinetic behavior, right? We have to give it time to run through phase 1, phase 2 at least. See, if you have good signals, good safety signals in phase 1 and phase 2, there are trials, phase 3 accelerated trials which have allowed drugs to be used in patients even before completing phase 3 trials. There are very good examples. See, atezolizumab is one such example. Osimertinib is a very good example of very recent, and good example of that. You know, uh, it was during the early phase 3 trials. It was just phase 2b finished, phase 3 started. First data came out in a year, in a couple of years' time. And it was seen that, there's very good brain penetration. Patients with brain metastasis are, have good disease control. Drug was granted accelerated approval. However, the phase 3 trial was continued, but still the drug was granted an accelerated approval and it was available for patients to use otherwise as well, if they are not part of the trial, otherwise as well. And the analysis was continuing since then. It took about 4 years post that to finally ascertain that fine, yes, this is a good drug, we can continue using it. Otherwise example came with another drug, an immunotherapy, which was initially approved, accelerated approval, again for what we call as a very bad disease, triple negative breast cancer. Uh, Drug got an accelerated approval. 1 year data post that, 1.5 year data post that, showed that there is no survival benefit.
Right.
The approval was withdrawn.
Right.
And it was a voluntary withdrawal, right? The manufacturer or the inventor themselves went to FDA, said that, we are not seeing any survival benefit with our drug, so we want to, voluntarily withdraw the indication. Indication was withdrawn. So
Correct.
the drugs today, we are at an era where we are looking at accelerated trials. We are looking at giving access to good drugs as early as possible to patients.
Right.
Right? But certain part of it is important.
Right.
Right? Understanding the behavior of a drug molecule, the behavior of that chemical in humans is extremely important to avoid possibly any harm that it can cause, maybe not in that individual, but in others. So from that perspective, it's important that we give it some time before we.
Yeah. So when we talk of this drug approvals, there are certain drugs which is approved in one country, but it may not be approved in another country. Two questions. Why is that there is a discrepancy when one country decides to approve? Why is it not universally approved? Second is, let's say a drug is not still approved in India. Is it okay to import the drug from a country which has an approval and treat a patient in India?
Yes, it is absolutely okay to import a drug. In fact, we do it. There is a legal process to do it through a proper channel. We do it. The Central Drug Standard Control Organization, CDSCO, the DCGI, has framed a very simple process, which again minimalistic paperwork. Everything is available online. If I am a patient, I am the right candidate for a drug which is not approved in India, and I need this, and I have the money to buy it. I just have to apply online, upload my prescription, my Aadhaar card, or any of the government approved IDs. Within 24 to 48 hours, the drug control authorities review the documents. Most of the times, majority of the times, if the documents are proper, it is approved within 24 hours. It is approved, and then we proceed for the further process. Now, this is if we have to buy a drug. Now, there are other mechanisms through which the drug access can be granted to anybody across the globe. Say, for example, a drug is not approved in India. Drug is in the US, uh, still finishing off with the trials, but got an accelerated approval. The companies do offer drug on compassionate grounds.
So
So
even
it's
after phase 1, phase 2 trials.
phase two. I mean,
Phase-
it's sole discretion of the company.
Mhm.
Even after phase two, if the responses are breakthrough responses, right? In those circumstances, they can choose to offer the drug
Sure.
to a patient who is not in the trial or is living outside the geography of that
So
region.
even if they're not part of the trial, they can.
They can, provided they have initial approvals from the FDA to proceed for next phase of trials, provided that it is a breakthrough, a breakthrough drug or a breakthrough molecule, which we are looking
So
at.
even if that patient is not going to be a part of their phase 3,
Yes,
they can still give
they
the
can
drug.
still, yes. This all on compassionate, or we call it, the access programs. They have the access programs through which they can, the patients can access it. But again, it is something which is a pure discretion of the inventor.
But there is a possibility.
There is a possibility, yes.
So there've been a lot of academic institution in India, abroad as well. We do research, especially like let's take an example of HCG hospitals or hospitals like Tata or AIMS, where we treat a lot of cancer patients. We are not able to do drug discovery. Okay, though we treat a lot of patients, we are academic institutions, research organizations. We know the mechanism of how cancer acts. And the overall drug discovery only comes from pharma institutes and not academic institutes. Do you think there is is it just lack of infrastructure, or is it kind of a lobby from the pharma companies where the academic institution are not able to come up with newer drug discoveries and basic science based drug discoveries?
Right.
See, a lot of drug discovery that happened in past, uh, you know, in Indian institutions as well. Unfortunately, the credit never came to us. We know the story of methotrexate. Uh, Similarly, I think a few years back we had bedaquiline. I'm going a little off oncology. Bedaquiline, which was indigenously developed in India, trials conducted in India, approved in India, and considered a very good drug to combat multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Uh, Largely, yes, we've not been able to translate our research into, I would say, into practice. Not been able to do, not been able to generate or make molecules or products out of research. Um, Two reasons, in my opinion, the way I've understood, the barriers. One is, of course, infrastructure, right? Not everywhere that we have infrastructure to sit and uh, look at chemical synthesis, because there are a lot of chemical synthesis that you have to do in order to bring out a molecule. Right. In order to bring out a chemical in a specific way, a lot of work that to be done in the lab, inside the lab, before even we infuse this drug or give this drug to an animal model or spread it on a cell line. Right. Second thing is about, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but uh, our basic attitude towards or focus towards research. Point is, are we really looking at uh, bringing up new molecules? Is our research focused on that side? Uh, when it comes to academic institution, not everywhere that we look at researching new drugs, new molecules. We put a lot of effort in understanding disease. We put a lot of effort and a lot of good work in basic science. But when it comes to translating that basic science uh, into practice, when I say practice, a new drug discovery, um, I think we lack infrastructure. We definitely lack.
It's all about infrastructure. It's not a lobby.
It's not a lobby, to my understanding.
Okay.
There are a lot of speculations which are spoken about. We all hear about it. Third world, India being called third world country. Data being looked suspiciously. All those things are there. The impact of lobbying cannot be ruled out completely. Definitely not. But genuinely speaking, somewhere a better infrastructure, somewhere better funding for research, somewhere a good orientation. Yes, orientation at the basic training levels.
Right.
A MBBS graduate being infused with the idea of research.
Right.
A pharmacy graduate being infused with the idea of research. With the motivation that one day that you probably can become an inventor of a new therapy or a therapy type or something. Something similar. In my opinion, that is something which is missing. There are people who are self-motivated.
Correct.
And there are institutions who are doing phenomenal work, right? Today, ICMRs are doing some path-breaking work. IITs are doing path-breaking work in a lot of therapeutic areas, including oncology. But it is very much confined to these institutions. It's not large spread.
Correct.
So I feel that orientation, that thought process, that from the basic trainings, from the undergraduate level trainings, that has to change. Once that changes, I'm sure we'll see some phenomenal research coming out of conversion.
So, what are the new exciting drugs in the pipeline for cancer care?
Oh, there are a lot. So,
If you can name three of them, the most exciting.
yeah. So I think there is this, antibody drug conjugate with deruxtecan that AstraZeneca and Daiichi Sankyo is coming up with.
Is it for the breast cancer?
It is for the triple negative breast cancer. They are looking at, in fact, the data that is available today, in fact, surpasses, and it is a combination of a Notch1 inhibitor with deruxtecan. And Notch1 we all understand is
Notch1 is again a genomic test.
yes.
Okay.
So, and this is one of the a reason for cancers like triple negative breast cancer to become what it is, become that tough disease. So, Notch1 inhibitor with deruxtecan, Daiichi Sankyo and AstraZeneca are coming up with it. Very
When is
promising.
it
Very promising.
out?
Probably in a year or two. Because the data is really, really promising. Even it is speculated to be better than sacituzumab govitecan at this point of time. There is a BCMA CAR T therapy which is being developed, and there are CAR NK cell therapy
Wow.
which is gaining a lot of traction. Uh, and there is a very interesting molecule with an oncolytic virus and cytostats. A chemotherapy tagged to an oncolytic virus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a monoclonal antibody primarily, but somehow made with the oncolytic virus.
And
Coming
what
up-
is the which cancer is it mainly used
It
for?
is primarily for head and neck cancers and cervical cancers. They are targeting it. The target is to target HPV.
HPV.
Yeah, HPV induced head and
Wow.
neck cancer. So these 3-4 drugs are quite in top, and two very important and exciting therapeutic areas within oncology. Those are gaining traction, and I'm sure will be the future. The antibody drug conjugates, the drugs like trastuzumab, deruxtecan, etc., and the multi-target drug therapies. So wherein we are looking at one drug targeting more than one
Target.
one target, one reason for the cancer. So we have EGFR targeted by the same drug, we have NOS targeted by the same drug,
Right.
we have third target targeted by the same drug, probably HER2 targeted by the same drug. So a drug which has a multiple targets which are currently under development, and probably in another couple of years we may see those drugs in the market.
That is very
Very exciting.
interesting. Yeah.
Very
so
exciting.
I think it's been a very insightful discussion, and this is exactly the reason why patients, it's important for patients to enroll in clinical trials.
Absolutely.
One
absolutely.
is there are new drugs coming up. Second is the timeline in which a drug is going to be established as a standard can be preponed if you enroll yourself in a possible
Absolutely.
good potential clinical
We
trial.
had a very good thing about somebody participating in clinical trial is everything is so controlled.
Control. Exactly.
Everything, every step is controlled, right? So even if you sneeze, your sneeze is
Is
recorded,
recorded.
Exactly.
right? And that's the best part of it. And you get access to the best research, the best molecule, the best chemical out there, right? Which is helping in combating disease. Plus, once you are out of trial, and if you are responding to the treatment, it's not that the drug is taken off from you. You still get the drug,
Right.
right? And you don't. And from economic or economy perspective, you do not have to pay for it
Right.
from your pocket.
And even with many of the patients who don't fit into clinical trials, I mean, there are good initiatives which have been started from the institutes or from the pharma companies where there is patient assistance program. You do
Right.
see a lot of
Yeah.
immunotherapy drugs which are not affordable by patients. Probably you can take it for 1 year for 10 lakhs, whereas if you just buy it in the market, that would cost you around crore.
Absolutely.
So these are all some of the patient assistance programs who are absolutely eligible based on their biomarker positivity, and we can easily, put it across to the patients for absolute outcomes.
Absolutely. I think this particular way of giving access to a good drug to the patient has revolutionized the way uh, you know uh, somebody can afford a drug.
Of
Right.
course, and also
In simple
Get
words,
access to the drug.
get access to that drug.
knowing as a clinician, knowing that the patient is going to have excellent outcomes with that,
Correct.
with least amount of side effects.
Yes.
Because if you see in the past decade, there's not even a single new chemotherapy drug which has come to the market. It is all about targeted therapies and immunotherapies which have come.
That's the future.
Why is it come? Because you know the target is making the tumor grow. So you're hitting the target, you're controlling the tumor to the great extent with minimal amount of side effects. I think that is the most impactful scenario which is played down in the drug.
Yes, and we were talking about what happened in last 10 decades. I think this is what has happened in last 10
Exactly.
decades. We've been able to minimize the adverse effects or the side effects to the minimum.
Right.
Whenever, all of us interact with our patients, with people around, with society, the whole understanding of cancer therapy is it's painful, a lot of side effects, it's better not to go through it. All those kind of thoughts. With immunotherapies, with safer therapies, I think that fear it will go off. That fear needs to go off because therapies, as we discussed, therapies are better tolerated today. Therapies are more efficacious today.
To conclude, while I was doing research for this podcast, I just read somewhere that the costliest drug is for metachromatic leukodystrophy, which is costing around 4.25
Oh,
million,
yeah.
probably somewhere around 45 crores. It is a one-time gene therapy.
Yes, yes.
So it's crazy how impactive that single drug could cost to a patient.
It is. It is. I mean, and as you rightly said, I think lot of drugs, gene-based therapies. I mean, which are currently available today, of course, at a whooping costs, as you rightly
There
mentioned.
could be only 100 patients of metachromatic leukodystrophy.
Right, in
I
worldwide.
mean, that's one we were talking about why drugs are costly. This is one reason. Very few, very
Patients
few
today.
patients who are eligible for that, and that makes it even costlier.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thanks.
Priyank, for taking your
My
time. It's
pleasure.
been such an insightful
Yeah,
discussion.
very informative discussion today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. It was indeed a pleasure.